I think we should start a show.
Okay, well, I can do that. And Anthony, you're ready as well, correct?
I'm ready. I'm all good. I got my water. I don't need to be all good.
I have
All
no
right.
water,
What's on your mug? Let's see your
and
mug.
I must drink.
Nice.
When I wake up, I'll be part of that world.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good one. John, let's see what your
I
cup
don't
is.
have one. I just said I didn't have any water.
I wasn't paying attention to you. I was paying attention to our guest. Man.
Hi. Got a little tracer action there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I realized that when I drink coffee out of this, if you don't pay attention and you blink, it just is gone. That was a stretch. I'm sorry.
It was. It still got a giggle out of me.
Yeah, but
Really
I'm not
set
proud
a
of it.
tone for the whole show just now, Ben.
Hey.
Oh,
Oh! Stubbed my toe!
no.
Wow.
All right, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and start the show.
Ugh.
What?
I've got nothing, man.
You're not going to get your silence if you wait too long. We're just going to keep laughing about it.
Well, I was stopping the pre-show recording that I do sometimes to check levels and stuff like that, and then starting the actual recording. So
Oh, okay.
that's where the silence came in. Welcome to Azeroth Roundtable, episode 332. It's Friday night. I'm excited. It's the weekend. And with me, as always, is my good friend, one of the best ones I've ever had. Someone who I spent a lot of time with, who's in my D&D campaign, who I just got to say, he's an all-around good guy. Welcome to the show, John Jagger.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here, Ben. Thanks. You're great. Hey, we got a guest this week on Azeroth Roundtable. We got Anthony joining us. Hey, Anthony.
Hey, what's up? How are you guys doing?
Not much. What'd you think of Ben's intro there? It was a bit much, right?
I wanted to hear more.
Oh, go on, Ben.
No, well, I was going to say, also joining us this week is someone who I am very happy to call a friend, someone who is a pretty darn awesome guy, and much more so, looks fantastic in armor. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Hello. I'm not wearing any armor today, well, right now, but that's usually what I do.
Well, that's all right. We all know that you're not wearing any pants. It's okay.
You're correct.
All right.
I'm wearing
So-
shorts.
All right.
All right.
What's going on here?
I don't know. I'm just in a good mood, even though so it's the weekend, but yeah, I got to work tomorrow and all weekend and have a ton to do. But at this moment in time, I am free. I get to talk to you guys and I get to talk about cool stuff and we just get to have a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to
This
it.
is your break. This is your chance to
Yeah.
be away from it all.
Exactly. It is my one chance to have fun this weekend.
We literally hold your free time in our hands.
Yes.
I'm honored.
Why are
I will
you?
cherish
Why is his free time 2 orbs?
Orbs, there's just so much joy and happiness within these orbs. I needed 2 hands.
Well, technically 3 because John, you had one too. So
I don't know where mine went.
I took his.
Anthony's got enough free time for the both of us.
all right, good to know. Good to know.
2 handfuls.
So, oh my gosh, a lot of stuff has been happening in the world of Warcraft news. We don't do news. We don't do transitions like that. But John, you said that you had a lot of stuff that you were kind of thinking about, that you're mulling over, and I know that there's been a lot of talk going on about WoW Classic, about Battle for Azeroth, about the Shadowlands.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really curious as to where your mind is actually hanging out these days.
It's kind of hanging out in all of those places. You know, we're at an interesting time for WoW. You know, we're coming up on the twilight of Battle for Azeroth. I mean, not to say that it's done. I mean, we don't know what the next expansion is. We are at the rumors
Shadowlands.
stage. Maybe. Could be the Shadowlands. We don't know. But, you know, we're starting to slowly turn our gaze towards what might be coming up. But at the same time, this month is the launch of WoW Classic. So at the same time that we're looking towards the future, we're also in a unique position where we're looking towards the past more than ever. There's been a lot of stories as of late about the surprising and continued meteoric rise of a game like Final Fantasy XIV, which for a lot of people feels like a callback to classic MMOs in a lot of ways. And so, kind of all of these things have been swirling around my mind lately. And I thought it might be fun, with this month being the month of Classic, to ourselves look back a little bit and kind of talk about it. Because the funny thing is, Ben, we have, I think you and I have pretty much said, between the two of us, we're probably not going to be in Classic. At least not all that much. We might check it out, might dive in and just be like, what's going on in here? I remember that. But we're going to be, at best, brief little tourists. But there are people, and I will say far more than I expected, super excited about WoW Classic in a way that I would have never predicted. And I know in the past I've probably even come across as a bit dismissive about that, but I don't want to do that today. I want...
To be fair, you've been dismissive about anything WoW at any time, depending on your mood.
Correct. But it's a new day. Thanks, Ben. And we're gonna really just hone in on, what we think makes that so compelling for people, and if there are things that we can take away from this sudden renewed interest in Classic and apply towards the current game. What lessons can we learn from the past that we can apply towards current? And I think the first thing we need to find out is from our guest. Anthony, did you play Vanilla WoW? How long have you been playing in general?
I did not play Vanilla WoW. I started World of Warcraft around Burning Crusade when Black Temple was fresh. So that's when I got into the game. So I didn't know anything. The only experience I had with Vanilla was like a booklet, like a guidebook that just had everything relevant for Vanilla. I just read through that and just kind of lived vicariously through that. As far as Vanilla goes, I don't know if I'm interested in it yet. I don't know. I'll definitely check it out, see what I feel about it, but I don't think I'm going to like it.
I mean, it's possible, but you were in that world. I mean,
Yeah.
you it's not like you're post Cataclysm. You understand there was a world where the Barrens was one place. You know that Thousand Needles was once a canyon and not a lake. There's
Right.
there's the knowledge there that for a lot of people I think does add an extra level of novelty.
Well, it's funny that you said that you haven't played Vanilla, and to me, you have, though, because like John was saying, you understand what kind of the world was and everything, but at the same time, I'm with you in the fact that I started near the end, like even a little bit further than you did. I did right when Isle Kildanis came out is when I started playing, and the idea of, okay, I went through, I played the quests and everything. I did a good majority of leveling, because that's all you could really do at lower end, but I didn't get the experiences of being max level with only Azeroth as a playground. I wasn't there when certain major things opened up, like when Molten Core became an actual thing that you could go into. I wasn't there when people were actually going through and like trying to earn money, and no one was level capped yet in things like that. So, like, in a sense, I've played the content, but I haven't had the experience, and I think that's kind of what you're saying as well.
Yeah, I didn't have that experience like whatsoever, and I am curious to see it, and I'm really excited to see what people do with that. For me, I'll definitely log in and I'll check out the world and everything, but I don't think I'll get through it. I don't have the patience for the quality of life changes that are not implemented in Classic that we have today. But I think it'll be cool to watch like streams and see YouTube videos of people progressing through. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
So Ben, what do you think, as a guess? I mean, we don't know, and obviously it's a lot of people, and the reason for one isn't going to be the reason for another. But what do you think is the driving force behind the interest in Classic?
Well, See, it's kind of hard. I think that one of the biggest things that people are missing most in current WoW versus old WoW is the community aspect of it. You know, a lot of people have the argument that Wrath of the Lich King is where the decline kind of started as soon as they added the LFD tool. And I mean, to a point, I can understand that. Like, I know why it's there. I know that it's way easier to find a group now than it was back then. But a lot of people would argue that that's the very beginning of people becoming, just absolute jerks to each other, not communicating in dungeons, because it's just random people just kind of thrown together to, oh well, we're doing this thing together, but we're not together. We don't need to talk to each other. I don't need to address the tank by their name. I just say tank, something like that. It's like the, I don't know, people started or stopped becoming people when that happened. Meanwhile, before that, you would know if someone on your server was a total ninja looter. They would be the person who, word of mouth spread. It's like, oh, it's this person. They'd say something in trade chat, and then immediately hundreds of people would jump on them. Oh, you ninja! Oh, we hate you! Stuff like that. You're able to really build a reputation as, oh, this is a good healer, or this is a nice person to play with. It's like your friends list didn't completely fill up with just real ID people who are playing other games. It's people who you actually, played around with, maybe did a dungeon or two together, maybe quested together that you just kind of randomly fell together with. And it was so much more social back then. At least that's what everybody remembers, is that it was so much more social.
I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because I literally had people back in those days. I would occasionally get bad messages in the game, and where's this coming from? And it was because I had a name that was eerily similar to a troublemaker on the server, and this was back in the day where if you went to the WoW forums, you could there were just forums on your server, and you could just be like, so and so's a d-bag, and they steal stuff, and they suck. And every now and then, someone would send me a message and be like, are you, and they'd just be raging at me, and I'm like, no, that's not, first of all, like, it's not your name's in the ballpark. You have to have literally the name.
Yeah.
And like it had 3 letters in likeness, but people just associated it, and they were like, are you sure it's you? And
I'm pretty sure I know who I am.
I know. But there was a time where that was a thing. Like, you could gain notoriety to where you could be a name on the server that people talked about, and people had discussions about you. Nowadays, it is true. If you go into a dungeon with a group of people, there's a good chance. Why bother learning their names? You're not going to see them again. We play with millions of people. Odds are, unless you went in with a group you formed, you're not going to run into those people again.
True. Here's the funny thing too, is that on our server there was someone who had a very similar name with me, where just 2 letters were transposed. Because I was Alanya and they were Elena, and I randomly met them in Dalaran once, and I'm like, oh, I took pictures with them. They were also a female blood elf mage. Although they were ice spec, I was fire spec, so I'm just like, oh, we're like, twins or something. I don't know. But I was talking to them, and they said, it's like, oh yeah, I get tells all the time from people who think that I'm you. And I'm just like, oh, cool. Me too, even though I didn't.
Just a little bit of a white lie.
Yeah, and like people in the guild would be like, oh, I can help you with that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And apparently this person like talks in general a lot, like, trying to get help with things and stuff like that. And people would just be really super nice to them because they thought that they were me. And I'm like, okay, cool, go you. And I was lucky enough that they weren't a total jerk like apparently John's doppelganger was.
Yeah.
But it worked out pretty well.
I never really had that experience. I just know that back in Burning Crusade, I was leading this guild called Acheron, and we didn't have like notoriety, but we were known as that guild with the how do you say, the co-leading couple. So I had this online girlfriend, and we were always putting raids together and all that stuff for Karazhan and all that stuff. So we kind of had that notoriety. And then when we wanted to merge another guild, this guild wanted to take us in, but they didn't want me because I was a Fury Warrior. or something like that. And they're like,
Oh,
"Look,
man.
we know you come in pairs, but we don't really need you, but we can take your entire guild." I was like, "At that."
But yeah,
That's
back in the day,
weird. We can't
like,
possibly have one more person in here. Just it can't be done.
I
oh no, it's specifically a Fury Warrior. I mean,
Yeah.
Fury. Yeah,
this is back in the day when things weren't balanced like as well as they are now, and so
this
things
was
are
before
constantly going up and down.
Titan Grip, and Fury Warriors were just they were just rogues with plate.
Yeah.
Exactly. Warriors are really fun now. Like really fun.
I need a level 1.
Yeah. But I mean, at least for me, like I said, the community aspect I think is what a lot of people are missing most, and that's if you were to ask the people who used to play on those illegal WoW servers, like classic servers and everything, that would be the response that they had. Anthony, do you have an idea of what's really drawing people towards it?
It's definitely nostalgia. Mostly what you guys were talking about, I would say, is the nostalgia of actually having an MMO community of people gathering together, telling people like messages like, "Hey, let's do this. Let's join a group and let's have a good time together." And I really think that just the fact that it's something different, well, not really different, but it's just another addition to WoW. It's another option. Like, it doesn't have to be something that you can do in live right now. You could have an option to go back to classic and do something else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I didn't really think about that. Is the fact that okay, so if you pay for a WoW subscription, you get WoW Classic for free.
Right.
If you play for a WoW Classic subscription, you get Live WoW for free. It's
Right.
like people who are so against Battle for Azeroth who are like, I'm not paying for Battle for Azeroth. I'm paying for Classic. It's like, okay, whatever you need to justify it to yourself.
You're
playing the
still
game.
giving them the
That's what
money
matters.
as it turns out.
Yeah, but I mean, the idea of it's like, okay, I want to play a different game because everybody has WoW burnout. I mean, it happens. If you have WoW burnout, do you go and play a different WoW?
I've tried different MMOs when I had WoW burnout. Like, I tried Elder Scrolls, I tried Final Fantasy. Just turns out I really like WoW. I always come back to it.
There's definitely comfort to coming back to what you know. And
Absolutely.
I think that will always be a part of it. As much as I've enjoyed my dabbling in Final Fantasy, there's definitely that hurdle. And I know, Ben, when you were first getting into it, and we used to talk a lot about MMOs, and I used to always say that, like, the first little bit of time in an MMO is just garbage. Like, it just sucks because they are so dense and there's so much to know and there's so much with how everything works that just like you just feel ignorant. You just feel like a child. I mean, it really is like being brought into a new world and you're like, I don't know how anything works. And except they don't give you parents. They give you the internet, and it's not a good idea. But
And back when it first came out, the internet was not a good parent.
it still isn't. It still isn't,
Okay,
as
true,
it turns
true.
out. But you kind of, I realized as I was playing Final Fantasy that like I don't know how their auction house really works. I don't know how crafting really works. I have basic understandings of like certain particular concepts, but not good by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm like, man, I'm almost up to the first expansion, and there's so much stuff in this game. Like, it's so deep. I kind of think I know how the transmog system works, but I also kind of don't. I mean, I can change my appearance to look like something else, but there's every now and then I'm like, there has to be a different way this works. This seems weird. So it's just one of those things. Like, you just feel like you're in an odd spot. And back in the day when they were just putting out MMO after MMO after MMO, and we all kind of glommed onto one, we've learned WoW. We've grown with WoW. We do know the aspects of it. I may have decided I don't want to raid anymore. I may have decided I don't want to do trade skills anymore. But I still know how they work, mostly. I can still get in a raid. I can still feel my way through trade skills, although I will say every now and then if you skip like 2 expansions worth of trade skills and you go to get back into it, you're like, the hell is going on? This expansion really threw me for cooking because they wanted a lot of fish, and I was like, I can't find ingredients. What do you want from me? Um, so it just didn't occur to me that I needed to go out and fish to get my cooking up, as it turns out. But so occasionally there's little things, but it's still home when it feels. I feel like an adult when I play WoW. I don't feel like a kid that's trying to I like video games. I know what I'm doing. And I think there's an element of that to WoW Classic too. I mean, you're looking backwards, but it's going to feel familiar and good. And so, like you said, Ben, if you take a break from WoW and you're like, well, I'm going to look for a game. Yeah, WoW kind of makes sense. You're going to know what you're doing. You're going to be able to get in and go, yeah, I can play this game, as it turns out. I can go log into WoW Classic and feel like a damn professional at it. I know this.
Except it's way harder than live now.
Except for how long it takes me to do literally everything.
So does that mean that Classic is just WoW hard mode?
Sorta. I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily I don't think Classic is harder. I think Classic is less respectful of your time. And it was fine back in the day. I didn't have a lot I had to do. So that was
Back
great.
when you weren't an MMO adult.
Yeah, back when I had summer vacation. Them saying, I don't know, that'll take you a month. Okay, I got a month to spare. Why not? And now I'm like, okay, well, I've got 2 evenings this week. Maybe I can get into World of Warcraft for an hour. Cumulative. And it's funny because we look back at what Classic did. And I don't remember in those days ever going, they don't respect my time. And we're just talking about it right now. And we're like, it takes so much longer to do everything. Now, everything's so much shorter. Everything's so much quicker. Everything's faster. They give you so much. And I now say, they don't respect my time.
Well, back then, John, you didn't respect your time.
That's true. Some would argue I still don't. I mean,
No, you don't.
You can argue that, I've brought this problem on myself. But yeah, I think nostalgia is definitely a primary part of it. We all play old video games. I mean, Ben, you always want to go back and play what, Final Fantasy 6 or is it 4? Wait, which one is it?
4.
But you don't because
I don't because of the curse.
It will ruin your life. But I mean, yes. We all have our games that we go back to.
Anthony, haven't I told you? Do you know about the Final Fantasy IV curse?
I was going to ask you, what is this curse?
Yeah. Okay, so my Final Fantasy IV curse is that any time ever that I bought a copy of Final Fantasy IV or 2, depending on which way you want to go, then I started playing it, I would come across some sort of financial ruin of some sort. Ooh. Whether it's oh man, all of a sudden it's oh, my car died and I need a new car, or I got a divorce and we're settling stuff, or just anything ever.
Wow.
That happened. It was oh, I totally accidentally overdrew by 10 cents, but it's caused all this wreckage and stuff. And I mean, I'm so much more responsible with cash and money and everything right now than I have ever been. But I am terrified to start this game because I'm not even kidding. It's not oh, it happened once or twice. It's probably 4, 5, maybe even 6 times I've tried to play this game and nope.
It sounds like Final Destination with less death.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, stay away from that game.
Yeah.
Just watch a streamer or something. Maybe that'll break the curse.
Maybe.
Watch someone else play it.
The funny thing is that I have a copy on Steam. I'm okay, I'm going to stream this for everybody. I started playing it, then I'm I started, it was the remake and everything that they put on PC that it was oh, nice and fancy, and I'm just I'm good.
I'm good. I don't want to lose my money.
I had plans. I was going to rename everybody's character name to people who came to chat and stuff. Although Kane was going to be John, of course I was going to be the main character, and all this stuff, and I'm just like, can't do it. But anyways, yes, going back and playing older games and based on nostalgia and stuff is something that I mean we all do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I find myself going back to RuneScape every now and then.
Oh,
That is
jeez,
one I never played.
Don't ever play it. It is the biggest time commitment ever. You and all you do is just stand in front of something, click it, and then the node goes away, and you wait for it to come back, and you click it again.
Gotta get them trees.
The trees, fishing, mining. Oh my god! And I would sit there and do that. 10-year-old me, just clicking. Oh, got my adamantite, or I got my oak. What? Who cares? It's such a but it's fun. It's comfortable. I go back to it because I understand it. I would definitely go back to the RuneScape Classic just for fun, just for nostalgia factor. Since we're on the topic of World of Warcraft Classic, because I never played World of Warcraft Classic like in its truest form, I have no interest in it. But RuneScape 2007 Classic, I'm like, I kind of want to play this because I'm familiar with it. I know what to do. I know where to go. I know these things. So maybe applying that, it just makes sense for people who want to go back into WoW Classic, and that makes sense for me.
So I guess to kind of tie it to what I'm interested at from a topic perspective, what do you think we can take from old school WoW? And I don't even necessarily mean classic. I mean, think back to when you were first starting out in the world. What was it about the game that existed then that maybe you feel like has fallen by the wayside now, that you think the current game could actually learn from? Because obviously, we've named a couple things, but I think there has to be more than that that's driving people to go back and play it, because odds are people are going to still be playing this in a year. Might not be the same amount, but people are still going to be doing it, and that's more than just a nostalgia kick. There's something to that version of the game. And maybe it's community, and that is something that could be applicable going forward. But what do you think current WoW could learn from classic era WoW?
1 second, I'm switching our Discord server. There we go. John, you're coming in a little choppy. Sorry about that. I don't know, Anthony, do you have anything just off the top of your head that you'd want to see move forward into current?
Someone in chat here says in Classic they felt like a hero, and I definitely agree with that. See, the thing with World of Warcraft right now is that you are the hero. You are the ultimate being. You've defeated so many people. You have done so many things. You are the champion. Tired of that? I want to be a normal dude who just took it upon himself to learn all these magics, these different fighting techniques, whatever. I want to be a regular dude who went out to be a hero in their own little way. Like I said, I never played Classic, but I got those bits and pieces like questing in Goldshire. I was really hesitant to say that. I really like, just going out defeating the kobolds, and questing in Westfall.
Questing in Goldshire.
Yeah.
I'm nostalgic for Goldshire too.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea that I don't know. In current WoW, it's like they put us at such a high pedestal that we can't come down from that. I mean, we're directly reporting to the war chief and doing stuff, and sure, some decisions are really weird and don't make sense on why we're there and why we're told to do certain things and stuff like that. I do like the idea of, starting off as the low level, not exactly like the peon, although we kind of are, the first
we're
10 levels
slightly
definitely
above. If you played an orc, you're waking up peon, so
Yeah.
you're whatever is just above. You're a high enough level to go wake up peon so they can keep working.
It's like when I worked at the movie theater, there was the staff and then the staff supervisor. They got to wear a vest as opposed to the suspenders, and they had just that tiny little bit of power to be able hey, could you please go do that? And that's where their power ended. That's where we are. We're the
maybe
staff
even
supervisor
lower
of
than that,
peons.
because when you think about it, really, the guy telling you to go wake up the peons is the staff supervisor.
Yeah, true.
So
we're the senior, the oldest of the peons. We've been there the longest.
Yeah.
The Dwight
Still wearing the
Schrute.
suspenders.
Yeah.
Assistant to the regional. manager.
Exactly. Yeah, and I like the idea of growing that story some more because it's and I'm bringing it up, and if you got that bingo card or you're taking drinks, it's the Dragon Ball Z problem. You get too powerful, the next
Mm.
enemy has to be like way more powerful than that, and then they have to be more powerful than the next one after that, and it just keeps rising and rising. And I mean, we saw this happen with EverQuest, where it's like, okay, we're going to the plane of hate now, and now we're going to the plane of destruction. Or I didn't play that long, so I don't know what the
Yeah,
planes actually are.
there was a plane for just about anything.
Oh, okay, cool. Um, so it's like when we're at the point where we're taking out gods, which I mean that happened last expansion.
Hmm.
It's really weird to knock us back down to okay, now we're just fighting each other. But I guess it makes sense because we're the ones who took out the gods, so now we just fight each other because we're kind of the same level. It the idea of just like shrinking us back down does seem interesting. It does seem kind of cool. I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
you're
it's hard
right.
moving forward with
It
that.
it is tricky because and we've run into that problem with this expansion. We talked about it. Like
Mhm.
last expansion in Legion, I was the head of a shadowy council that was plotting and planning how Azeroth was going to function going into the future. Now I'm taking orders as a soldier for the Horde. That's no, we decide, my group that I'm in charge of decides who leads Azeroth. Like we end kings and queens. Like that's what we do. And now you're like, hey, we go over here and do that. No. But it also did get a little into that because it's not a case of we're listening to the war chief. We're actually plotting above the war chief. Well, we'll decide who's going to be war chief. Like we are kind of in this weird position. Like I'll decide if I'm going to listen to you or work against you. And it has gotten a little big as a result. And I have no problem feeling like a hero. I mean, that's the classic evolution of like a D&D campaign. You start out and you're just like a better person. Like you're you're a little bit better than your average Joe.
And you probably don't have parents anymore.
And your parents probably died. That probably is what made you a better person for some reason. And
Tragedy.
you slowly build up and then eventually you are dealing with gods and all of that, but that's also typically where the campaign ends and you say, well, GG everybody. Either somebody has to keep trying to build on that or you all roll back and you roll new characters and you start over. And it's hard with an MMO because you can't just say, no, that's it, guys, you did it, you're done.
Did you ever play Star Wars: The Old Republic, the MMO?
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like there's like I only played the vanilla, I guess, portion of it. I played a Imperial agent, and the way that ends, actually I don't even remember. I just know that it was like a really good finale, and it's like, how do you build upon that? And apparently that they did.
They did.
They definitely did. I know that much. Now I want to go back and watch that story.
Slight spoilers for Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I mean a
I
lot of it
haven't.
changes depending on what you do, but basically, a third faction shows up. This infinite empire led by the reincarnated emperor, and they trounce the Republic and the Sith to a degree where the
Wow.
Republic and the Sith have to join forces, much like
Wow.
a World of Warcraft expansion, to even fight them. And that storyline, here's where the spoilers get, because that expansion, that's how it opens basically. You
The leader of
become
the
the new
Republic.
emperor of that faction.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
they
was actually going to make a big joke about how you become the leader of the Republic and then you ended up getting killed and turned to dust. And then your son takes over and his werewolf friend is trying to have you go to war.
Nope, they make you the full on emperor. They don't
Wow.
hold back in that game. But my understanding, and if we ever want to have a discussion about this, we'll have Tetsemi back to tell us. But uh, my understanding is that they have done so much story that they have kind of gotten themselves in a bit of trouble because some characters are alive for some characters are not alive for others, so they can't do anything with those characters going forward because they might be dead and they've had betrayals and all these things. And so it's gotten a bit much. Again, probably suffering from something similar to WoW, which is this constant escalation. And for them, also the paths branched, and now it's like, oh.
Well, that's why for them you just constantly introduce new characters so that you know that they're either going to be the hero or the villain just because they're new.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
do
Force
six on it.
Ghost. Force Ghost.
It-
Everybody
Force
Force
Ghost.
Ghost.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if I was gonna give one for a suggestion on what WoW could learn, and this is gonna sound weird because it's not really a lesson learned, and the common belief as it's happening is level squish. If you're gonna squish the levels, which it sounds like they might, that's a perfect time to roll back character power too. I know a lot of people who are like, but I earned those levels and I should have them, and I want to see 130 next to my name. I guess here's a question for our audience and you guys. If they were to roll back our level and that was to come with some story element that reduced our power as players, does that feel better or does that feel worse?
I would say it's acceptable. I would be indifferent. It was the same thing as losing your heirloom or whatever you call it, the weapon in Legion. Like it was a great build up. Like I really enjoyed having that weapon and having the extra button to press, but to give it up in order to save Azeroth, that was a great send off. If Blizzard can strategically take away my levels and de-escalate my power a little bit in a way that makes sense, I'm all for it. Especially if it helps us push the story forward.
So what if they just change the number? You're never depowered. They just change the number.
Then it's a big placebo.
And that's what I'm wondering. Does that feel better? Does it feel better if it comes with a story where you're depowered? Does it feel like then you're always chasing the power you had and will in theory not have again?
Well, see, here's the thing. This expansion has been us chasing the power that we had.
Yeah.
That's the entire heart of Azeroth. That's the thing that it hasn't felt good for me this expansion. I always have a big issue when I start like say a Metroid game like Metroid Prime, perfect example. I've got missiles, I've got bombs, I've got the morph ball, I've got everything. Woo, this is great. And then an explosion happens and throws you against a wall and you lose all that stuff. Okay, so now I know what I could be, but I have to go back through and get all that stuff again. Like to me, for an MMO at least, it doesn't make sense to actually like remove abilities or talents or something like that to like squish you down just to get them back again. Like that, I would hate that. That part of it I don't like. A level squish of, hey, it used to take 10 levels to get to this amount of power or whatever. Now it's 2. I'm fine with, I don't care. Every single number that they put in there that has to do with level is completely arbitrary. The biggest thing that we learned this expansion is that when you level from 110 to 120, you get nothing. Absolutely nothing.
The game
you
gets
don't
harder.
Get, yeah, just the game gets harder. Yeah. The mobs around you stay the same until you get to like 106 when your legendary doesn't work anymore if you even had them, and then the game gets harder. And you don't get new abilities. You don't like. We were just talking about in Raid the other night. Warlords of Draenor, even though the leveling experience in the story was cool when we were doing it and stuff. If you remember when we leveled up, all of our abilities that we already had some sort of really cool like extension happen to them.
Yep.
Every 2 levels we got something, and it could be something entirely different from I'm a fire mage and that dude over there is a fire mage, and guess what? We both hit 102 at the same time. My Scorch lets me run faster, and his Fireball reaches further. It was a slot machine on what you got. You eventually got everything, but something like that was really neat, and like that would have been so welcome at this point because it was 10 levels of nothing. So at that point, why does it matter what the level is? You could have said, okay, here we go. We're going from 110 to 111, and just it takes that long to fill up that bar.
Yeah.
Numbers don't matter.
I would argue that it matters in the fact that I don't think that would feel good as a player. I think that but yes, you are right. Like for all intents and purposes, wouldn't have changed a damn thing. It could have taken the exact same amount of time. The game would have become just as difficult when you hit. Actually, it would have been less because you wouldn't have had that middle point where all of a sudden your legendary stopped working. So actually,
Yeah.
the one difference is your version would have been slightly more fun.
When you get to 111, then it's hard as hell.
Yeah, then it gets real bad. But I think you bring up a good point too, which is unlocking something as you level. And Classic, well known for having something every time you level. Like, that was the craziest feeling because I spent so much time in EverQuest where it was like every 5, which took a long time in EverQuest. Like,
Wow.
it took a really long time. And I might even be wrong with 5. It might be 10, but it took ages, it felt like, for you to get something new. And it was just like, oh, I get to do something new now. This is amazing. What did I get? Well, your spells are a little better. Okay, I don't care. Just give me something new. I've been out
Oh man, that fireball hits really
I've
hard.
been out in the world for 7 months and I need something. It wasn't that long, but it was like, just please give me anything at this point. And then you played WoW and it was like, okay, here's your base kit. Oh, you leveled. Well, you can get this now.
Wait, what?
What? And actually, I don't remember if the first 10 levels or so were like that, but this would be something new for me to learn if I went back to Classic. But I know once you started getting talent unlocks, then it was basically you alternated. It was, here's a level for spells and abilities, here's a level for talents, here's a level for spells and abilities, here's a level for talents. And it was just, there was just constantly something. And like, yeah, granted, oh, it's a talent level. Okay, this 1% is now 1.5%. Woo! That's still better than anything I got in Battle for Azeroth. So, as little as that woo might be, it still felt it still felt like something, especially by comparison. And I don't know if everybody's flocking to Classic for that reason, but there's something you can take from Classic and put in the game that will certainly make people more interested in your leveling. Because right now, it has been a decline for sure.
Well, there are 60 of them in this one.
Yeah, there's a whole
Levels,
60.
that is.
Yeah.
It's a good number.
Yeah. I remember when I was playing and I got to 60, I was like, yeah, I got to the cap before the expansion. Woohoo! Okay, 10 more.
10 more. Let's go.
Wait,
I
if
had
you
fun
were
with
in
that.
Burning Crusade, wasn't the cap 70?
I said before the expansion. So originally it was 60. I got to 60 and I was woohooing because if Burning Crusade didn't exist,
gotcha.
I would have been at the cap.
Oh, you would have been at the cap. Sorry, I was getting distracted because I was about to say, like, do you remember where you were the first time you hit max level?
I was in Netherstorm. Is that what it is? The purple area.
Yeah, Netherstorm.
Yeah, I was in Netherstorm. I think I was fighting the. What was I fighting? I was fighting some sort of like Void Lord things, like up in one of the areas that had been taken over. I don't remember exactly where, but I was so excited and so happy, and this was so great. And then I started doing world quests so I can get money, so I can get flying, and I was so excited. And then I got super slow flying, and then John's like, "Come on, follow me," and I'm like, "Okay." And then it took forever, and he's like, "Here's money, so you can get fast flying. You owe me." And I said, "Okay." So then I owed him, and then I gave him the money back, and I'm like, "Woohoo!"
That was such an exhilarating feeling, getting flying.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Oh, I remember
That's what
that.
I think. That's what I think that Battle for Azeroth needs to learn from Classic WoW is that flying is okay.
I think I hit level 60, if I remember correctly. I know the place for sure, but I don't remember if it was turning in a quest or if it was discovering an area. But there's a place just outside of Orgrimmar. If you go south from Orgrimmar, there's that little canyon, you know? To the east of the canyon, if you don't go in the canyon, to the east, there's at least there used to be a little orc by a pool of water in a little like tent area. Like he's kind of just off on his own. And I think he gave you a quest having to deal with necklaces or something like that. Maybe I don't remember exactly, but he was over there, and I wandered over there, and I think it was an area of the map I hadn't discovered, and I think I discovered it, and I think that's what dinged me max level the first time, because I remember
wow.
being like, yeah, max level. Well, this was a dumb way. I should have planned this better. Like, I got it for running into an area. That's okay, heroic. But yeah, that was definitely the place, because for the longest time I had a picture of me next to that orc, like, for hitting max level.
Super hyped up.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Oh,
buddy. I owe this to you.
Too bad you didn't have a selfie cam at that point.
I know, that would have been a perfect selfie moment,
Mhm.
but that was not to be. That was for the biggest patch sometime later.
Yeah. Anthony, do you remember where you hit max level first time?
For the first time, max level, Burning Crusade. Same area, Netherstorm.
Nice.
But I'm trying to remember if it was in that biodome with all the greenery,
Oh,
or if it was fighting those mana worms off to the left-hand side of the map, I believe.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
if
tombs-
that's what I hit level 70 doing, was fighting those
You did
stupid
too?
man worms, because
I hated those things.
I got so close to leveling. I was
Yeah.
right there, and I didn't know where the next quest was. I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I was so close, and I was just like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I don't want to go down to the other place. That's all the way at the other end of Outland. I was like,
No
I just
flying.
need to level. I just need to level. I'm going to just fight these worms. And I just started fighting worms, and I really underestimated how many I needed to kill to level. Because I was like, it's barely there. This will take no time. And I fought worms for like 30 minutes straight, just killing them before it was finally like, ding. And I was like, okay, finally. Okay, we did it.
Yeah, I ended up going deeper into Netherstorm because at one point I'm just like, screw Blades Edge Mountains. This place sucks because I'm constantly up and down and up and down and up and down. And I'm pretty sure I never finished that place because, oh my gosh, it was the worst. Oh, I hated it so much.
Well,
So
everybody loves a place where you think you're going towards the quest objective, then you realize, oh no, it's up on the top level. Let me backtrack like 3 minutes this way to go up a ramp so I can come back the same distance around the edge.
And then fight through 5 mobs the entire way because you can't run through them because they're going to knock you off. Yeah.
Right when you think you're safe, there's a vulture comes swooping down, knock you off now.
Oh man, how BS are flying mobs that are just scattered throughout a zone? Oh, they're the worst.
Especially when you can't see them, but they can see you.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, this is an issue that happened with Classic as well. So I'm still kind of on point. But don't you hate it when you need to actually look up to try to find things, and the camera's like, I'm hitting the ground and I can't actually see what's going on above me, and oh my gosh, I was having the worst time recently. I don't even remember what I was doing, but it's like, okay, I gotta look up. This is as high up as I can look. Okay.
What did you
so
have
then
to look up
so
for?
I don't remember. So then I'm like, okay, so then I zoomed out and tried to like basically have the camera above whatever I'm looking for. Didn't work either, and it's just I hate it when you have to actually look up. And
I
you
can't
just
remember the
because camera's
last
so
time
broken.
I've had to look up in WoW.
Ollie,
It happens.
when she's talking about her stuff in Dungeon Fable, she always says look up because there's a bunch of things like on the ceiling and the skyboxes and all that kind of stuff. So I like to look up frequently because of that.
Yeah.
But I know exactly that problem that you're having. I think
Yeah.
you can combat that by going in first person.
That's what I always do. Like, yeah, it's
screw
always
that.
zoom all the way in.
I like
zoom
looking
back
at my
out.
character. She's awesome.
Well, it's
Fair enough.
zoom in. It's 1 second, but I'm not saying play the game in
Well,
first
no.
person.
The even worse part is when you're in raid and there's mechanics that you need to look up, but you also need raid awareness of everything around you at the same time. You're just screwed. It just doesn't happen. Stupid camera stuff.
I
That's
still
what they need to get
think,
right.
and I know I've said it on the show before, but in case you're newer, I'm gonna still give this recommendation to you. Whenever we get near like late in an expansion, it's always like, here's a fun way to try playing the game. I think people should always go in and try first person. Wow. I think it is a fun experience. It's not great for combat, obviously. Like that's not always going to
Especially
be the
certain
best.
classes.
But
Like Demon Hunter, maybe not.
No.
there is a appreciation for the scale of the world that you lose with the camera angle that we play at. Like everything has a tendency to feel a little smaller than it should. And when you go into first person, you're like, trolls are tall. It's
Yeah.
just like you're just
Scary.
like, wow. This-
Pandaren are really tall too, believe it or not.
like you're just like, wow, this is crazy. Yeah, and that's the thing is like Pandaren. I remember when they put them in the game, I was like, geez, tiny much. Like these things are little. But then like you zoom in and you're like, oh no, they're like about where an orc is, and orcs are taller than you would think. Like,
Especially now that they can stand up straight.
Yeah.
yeah,
Hulking monsters.
they're great. But yeah, go first person. Also, Dalaran is a great place to go first person in because
There's a
Dalaran
lot of really neat
Beautiful.
stuff.
is just a cool.
And don't forget the
freaking town.
walls are sparkly.
That too.
Oh yeah, I remember somebody pointed that. Was it you who first pointed
It was
that out, or
me,
was it a
yeah.
guess?
Oh, it was totally me. I was just like, it was after raid and I was hanging out in Dalaran. I'm just like, I know it's gonna sound like I'm high, but the walls are sparkly in Dalaran. And then other people in my raid team were like, "What? Oh my God, he's right.
Now I gotta go back to Dalaran and check it out.
Yeah, everybody
totally.
log in.
They're sparkly. It's pretty cool."
Yeah,
I like
it's-
how when you go into first person mode on different races, it actually matches the height. Like if you go in as gnome or goblin, it's right there. Tauren, way up here. That's always fun to see.
I remember the thing that really struck me was back in Burning Crusade. So Draenei were new. We weren't used to seeing them all over the place. We were going to go do a raid at Scarlet Monastery, or a dungeon probably. And while we were standing outside getting ready to go in, you know, you're in that room that's kind of a real tight, low ceiling. Like it's a room that's
Right.
not designed to have like a bunch of people like hanging out in it for a period of time. It's designed very realistically with low ceilings. So I was zoomed way in, and I looked over and I was just like, that is the coolest looking character I've ever seen in the history of the game. And it was some like shadow priest Draenei in a hood. And she had like her horns back and all of that, and I just didn't immediately read as Draenei with what they were wearing. And like again, you don't appreciate the scale. I think I might have been an undead still at the time, so I wasn't exactly tall myself, but either
Yeah.
way, even blood elves aren't that tall. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this character is so tall and so cool looking, and like, what is this?
It's like
And,
such
like,
an imposing figure.
Right, and then like I got it, and I was like, oh, it's a Draenei, and like I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, this might be the coolest Alliance race, and it's just from one moment where I actually zoomed in and got to appreciate the scale of the character, because when you're up in the air, you know, you don't really notice, you don't really see it all that often.
Everybody kind of looks the same when you're zoomed out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then you zoom in and you're like, oh, I'm a shorty, I didn't know.
Well, it's funny because, you know, spending so much time online with Nevermore, you know, she's a blood elf, I'm a panda, and every now and then, like, she's like, oh, stand next to me, or, you know, we're taking a picture or something, and I'm just like, God, I'm tall. I never would have thought that the pandas would be as tall as they are, and they're like a good, like, 6 to 12 inches higher. It just, it boggles my mind. And then, let's see, I have one goblin that I run around on, like, rarely, but like you can totally tell that size difference and stuff. But my absolute favorite, like, total size discrepancy stuff is when you're a male Tauren on a mount trying to go through a door that you've gone through hundreds of times on every other character that you have, and your face is just hitting like above the frame, and you just can't go inside.
Yeah, it's like it's taking you out at the waist. You're just like, oh no, Coda was a wrong decision.
Exactly. It's like the racial mount is too tall. They can't do anything. Like my Tauren Paladin, I tried to use the charge ability with her, you know, with her racial mount before I fixed it so that it uses the horse from last expansion. And I'm like, woohoo, going through the doors. Ah, dang it.
Back up, try again.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, okay, then it disappears. It's like, walk in, Then once I'm inside, yay, charge again.
Let's go. You can really tell those height differences when you try to take a selfie with someone else who's a different
Oh
race.
yeah.
You got to angle it way up here.
And
How's
if
the
it's a
weather
blood
down
elf, they're just like making a bored face, like.
there? Yeah,
Blood elves, eternally bored.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty
but with the
much.
best dance.
You know what? It is actually not that bad.
Man, there's a thing from Classic. Remember when you cared about dances a lot?
Yeah, no one really
Oh,
dances
man.
anymore.
Well, yeah, because
That's
we
true.
were promised a dance studio, then it didn't happen, and we were just like, well, I guess it's going to be this dumb thing forever. That was the end of it.
It was on the box.
Was on the
Yeah.
box.
Yeah, the aerospace combat too. I
Yes.
remember
Yeah.
I tried that in the PTR. That was different.
Might be why it never saw the light of day.
Yeah, but
It
then we
was-
got
it was
that
different.
the mounts of combat with the jousting, and everyone's like, no.
I, unbiased opinion, really enjoyed that.
Totally biased opinion, but that's okay.
I honestly, I liked jousting. It just took a little too long. Like
Yeah.
it was actually it's funny because it does kind of tie into what we talked about. The problem was it never scaled up. It was always universally exactly what it was at day one. And like, yeah, you could get better at it, but even at its best, it was like, okay, well, it is this. This is what jousting is in the game. And then they transferred it out into, well, now you're not doing it against, like, in the tournament grounds. Now it's actually a part of a daily quest. And it was like, okay, well, now it's kind of obnoxious because now I'm trying to get through my dailies and grind through my dailies, and it's not this fun little jousting tournament. Now it's just like, I could get off
Kill
my
3 of
mount
those
and
things.
kill these things way faster than the jousting, but it doesn't count unless I joust them, which takes forever.
Which, speaking of, you need to go do Trial of the whatever. That's the dungeon, because I always mix up Champion and Crusader. Do the one that's the dungeon, and do not mount anything up to start. Or, well, I think you have to start the fight, maybe. But yeah, just fight them on the ground. It's amazing how easy they just fall.
Even with all that armor on.
Oh yeah, they just fall. It's great.
They're like, we must joust. You just pop off, just pull out a gun.
I think that you do need to worry about them like getting back up and then walking over to a mountain, getting back on one and stuff. You need to worry about that. But I mean, it's really fun just to be all like, I mean, as a monk, just punch, kick, and then it's like, and they just, they're knocked out. They're on the ground. It's great.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
I'm not sure we built exactly the best list of things to bring from classic into modern WoW, but you know what? It's fun to do a nostalgia trip with you, fellas.
Oh,
Agreed.
thanks.
This was a lot of fun.
Yes. And as always, we were very happy that you were able to join us, Anthony.
It's been an absolute pleasure. It's cool getting back into the groove of things. I was very honored when you messaged me.
Well, yeah, you're a cool guy. I like talking to you. What can I say?
Thanks.
So, until next time we have you on, where can people find you?
You can find me at Perfect Nomad on Twitter. I will be streaming again very soon, hopefully by next week or whatever. You can find me on twitch.tv/Perfect Nomad. You can follow me on Instagram at perfect_nomad. You can just hit me up anytime. I like talking to people.
Cool. All right. John,
Yes.
question for you.
Okay.
If people were wanting to find you outside of this show, what would be a good way to do it?
First of all, don't. That's called stalking, and it's frowned upon. But if you were to say
I'll write
wanting
that
to
down.
keep up to, the goings on in my life, in a non, like, actually outside waiting for me kind of sense, follow me on Twitter at John_Jagger. That's where I'll let you know what you need to know. But if you say, John, I would like to hear more shows from you, well, I do more shows.
Hey, John, I would like to hear more shows from you.
Well, I do more shows. The first one of those is a video game podcast called Core,
Core!
and that is part of the Frog Pants Network. You can find out more about that at heroesforyou.com. The second show that you can check out is There Will Be Dungeons, which has a new recording night. It now records Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So if you want to join us live for that, come check us out every Sunday going forward, 3 p.m. Pacific. And we'll be playing the Dungeons and Dragons, a little game you're sure to hear more about in just a moment. So that's it for me. This is where I say, Ben. Ben.
Oh, yes, John.
Hello.
Yes, John.
Hi, how are you?
Hello. Hi.
Hey.
I'm good. How are you doing?
Hey, if people wanted to find out more from you, where would they go to do that?
Oh, if they did want to do that, they can also follow me on Twitter. I'm at Ben Bumhofer. Got it right again.
Good job.
Keep track.
Great
Do one
job.
of those
Nailed
like
it.
it's been 0 weeks since you screwed up on your Twitter name.
Got it.
If you want to actually hear more of my voice and me talking about things, I do a show with a Ludo called Box Fort, and we just geek out about stuff. Best way to describe that show, really. As John mentioned, there is a little bit more about the Dungeons and the Dragons. That is actually something I discuss with Ryan Reeder on DN Discussions. We talk about different aspects of the game and have a grand old discussion about things. And like John, I also do like to play the Dungeons and the Dragons, and I do that on a show called +5 to Hit.
This is too many thes. You've reached your the quota. You may continue speaking, but you are not allowed to use the word the for the remainder of your discussion.
All right. This show, however, Azeroth Roundtable, one of let's see, a great place to find us on Twitter would be at AzerothRT. If you have any questions, comments, or want to email us, send those to AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com. And of course, all of our episodes are found on AzerothRoundtable.com, as well as on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and pretty much great places where you'll find podcasts.
Good job, Ben.
Well done.
Yeah,
I'm
look at that.
impressed.
You had one little hang-up spot, and you got around it just fine. Hey, if you had a good time tonight and you had fun, we sure did. I would encourage you to go to patreon.com/AzerothRT and think about maybe becoming a patron of ours. It's a good way to support the show, encourage us to keep on trucking. Every month we like to give a special shout out to people who kind of go above and beyond. We call them the Murloc Club, and that is Aaron, Bershkauber, Brandon O, Haster, Jesse O, Caleb M, Megan Pye, Shane X, and Taryn. Thank you so much for being part of the Murloc Club.
It's good.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of Azeroth Roundtable. Anthony, it is always a pleasure having you on. You are a wonderful person full of just awesomeness.
You're gonna make me a woo woo.
Aww. John, it is absolutely great having you on the show yet again.
Oh,
It's like you keep coming back or something. I appreciate
You
it.
know, by my own demand.
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
and
also
no,
mine.
and yours, and no one else's.
And also mine.
But yeah,
Totally.
two people who have a lot of clout, as it turns out.
Really?
On what happens on this show, certainly.
Oh, okay. There you go. I was going to say, there's nowhere else.
No.
Definitely nowhere else.
This is our one kingdom, Ben, and we intend to rule.
Which right now, I believe that's you.
I am the king currently.
Yeah.
Maybe forever. We'll see what happens.
I know, which is crazy. If you want to know what we're talking about, check out previous shows around BlizzCon predictions. Maybe go back 2 or 3 years.
I'm sure we mentioned it last year. There's a
Maybe.
stipulation. I guess we can remind people now,
Yeah.
just for fun. Just for fun, and we're funning here at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
There is a stipulation in place in the BlizzCon prediction contest, our annual tradition, that should the day ever come that Disney acquires Blizzard, I become the infinite king of Azeroth Roundtable.
I hope it never
Apparently,
happens.
apparently, there's discussions going on.
Oh, wow.
And with that, everybody, we'll catch you next time, and be good to each other.
Do it,
Long live
Disney.
the king.
Make me the king. Make me the king forever.
I'm tired of Disney ruling everything I love. I want to disconnect from Disney. It's down the street from me. I can hear the fireworks.
I'm pretty happy with a lot of stuff that they've done with those IPs, so I'm okay
I know,
with it.
that's true. I'm just a stickler because I feel like it takes over everything that is popular.
It does, but the problem is as good a points as any detractor might have, it will make me king, and it's hard to argue with being made king in perpetuity.
It's very true.
I'm gonna stop the recording. YouTube,